Hey everyone, GameHounds podcast. It's Edie. I am hoping that we actually have a show because I have been having audio issues. It is not my setup. It is nothing to do with me. It is 100% something to do with the laptop because actually I'm not even sure of that because Windows says my microphone is set up perfectly. Windows has no problem, but occasionally I am getting this notification that my browser has lost connection to my microphone. And since we are browser
I've
based,
never heard that happen before.
I have never seen that error message before either.
The
Everything
gremlins. The
right here
gremlin.
is
You
exactly how it's always been.
look. You're now podcasting from the guy's house. You fled from the gremlins in your old house, but they have tracked you down and found you.
Yeah, I guess so.
It took a while.
It's it, the, I have had no gremlins since getting my Scarlet and being able to be mobile. I've used this laptop, exact second screen, exact everything. All nothing's changed. But for some reason, my Chrome has decided that it does not like my microphone. Anyway, so
Okay.
if I
Well,
disappear, you will know why my voice has disappeared because I will have to go and come back and try and figure it out. And I might have to just not use my headset and just go through the microphone on the laptop, which is going to sound terrible,
and
even
look,
worse than normal.
you were doing it before, and it didn't sound that bad.
Yeah, you're a terrible judge of that.
Look, I've compared to what other podcasts I've heard
Yeah.
sound like, and compared to like what laptop microphones used to sound like several
Mhm.
years ago, it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, I have been listening to a lot of more podcasts in the Tesla, including ours. I listen to ours now afterwards on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, and ours sounds awful, just awful, like abysmal. And that is something that I've always taken a point in pride is our podcasts always sound good. But honestly, since we started using StreamYard, our podcast sounds awful.
Is it just StreamYard's compression?
It is StreamYard's compression. It is StreamYard's inability to be able to mix two people talking together so they kind of gate each other out and it doesn't, like that problem it has where you can't play the microphone music if it's too loud. You can't hear me over it because I pop in and out.
Yes.
That. And
Okay. Okay.
it happens every time you and I talk over each other.
Hmm.
Hey, Pist is in the
Hey,
room.
Mr.
It's been a
Now
while
just
since
now
we've
we just
seen you.
fucked it up for everyone.
All right, let me do the intro music, and
Okay.
then we will launch into the actual show. If you're good with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it.
This podcast discusses video games, modern culture, and technology, and these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended, please stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Hello and welcome to GameHounds. I'm trying to get way down this time. Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 771, titled something something blah blah. Couldn't think of a name, although when you hear this on iTunes, it'll probably have a name. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nick DiNicola. Right, if you're watching on
Hey.
iTunes or on Facebook, on YouTube, or Twitch, he's right over there. If you're listening, audience, after this fact as a podcast, he's in your other ear, I guess, is the way you describe it. So we're here, and audio problems. So far, I'm still here. We'll see.
You are. Yeah.
So what have you been playing, Nick?
Well, before that,
Yeah.
I need to open the mustard soda.
Oh, you're doing mustard soda today. Okay.
That's what people in the chat wanted.
Lester's something?
Lester's Fixins.
Lester's Fixins mustard soda. It looks disgusting.
So the last one was peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I swear to you, it tasted like pear.
Okay.
It was like a
Peach. You said
nice,
peach.
gentle, sweet. Oh, peach
Right,
soda.
peach.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is mustard.
It looks bright yellow. It looks all kinds of wrong. It looks nuclear, like. And Nick, what does it taste like?
It doesn't
Oh,
taste like mustard,
okay.
but it's not awful, but it's also not particularly good.
So it's not like pineapple or something, right?
Mm-mm. After the last one, I was hoping that this would be like they would all be some kind of fruit soda.
Right.
Maybe it is.
It
Maybe
is mustard or pineapple?
no, maybe it's like a kind of mango.
So it has a fruity taste to it.
Yeah, it could be mango.
Man, I'm so tempted. I
Hmm.
so wanna, like, try that to see if what you're tasting is true or you're just making it up.
I'm not making it up. Okay, it's starting to grow on me because it's not sweet like the last one was. The
Mhm.
last one was like genuinely sweet. This is like when you get a really fresh piece of mango and you bite into it, like it's not a sweet fruit. It's just kind of has its flavor and then you swallow it and you're like, "Oh, that's pretty good." This is like that but with less flavor. It's like a
Okay.
mango, a really subtly a mango that's lost most of its flavor.
Interesting. A very
It's like
anemic mango.
a flat mango.
That would be a flango. Did I almost make you blow, mustard soda out your nose on that one?
Not quite. It's
Or is it flango? Flango flavored.
yeah, flanco flavored. It's not mustard flavored, it's flanco flavored.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say it has
Alright.
pure cane sugar in it, but I don't know.
I'm kinda disappointed that these are all ending up being actually not horrible.
I
I
mean,
was
I have two other ones with me here. Buffalo wing soda and horchata, and I could open another one of those and try it.
Mhm. No. We need to do this once a week. You've got your
Yeah, there's a lot of sodas though. That's like 12 weeks.
yeah.
No, it's more than 12 weeks. It's like 20 weeks.
Yeah. Half a year.
We don't have to do one a week.
It's the gift that
We
keeps
can
on giving.
we can speed this up a
Nope.
little
Nope.
bit.
Nope. Just keep the pace. Keep the
Ah.
pace. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we start into what Nick has been playing and what I have been playing. We are not going to have a show on Super Bowl Sunday because Nick is going to be in Denver.
Yes.
That day is February 12th, I believe it is.
No. Week before.
February.
Oh, come on. How do I
Was it
where's the
February 8th? No, let's see. February Super Bowl Sunday. It's either going to be the 9th.
the 9th. Yes.
Okay, the
The
9th.
9th.
Okay. So February 9th, which is not this week and not next week, it's the week after. So in 3 weeks from now, we will not be having, or is that 2 weeks? That's 1
2
week
weeks.
from now.
2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
We will not be having a
The
show.
9th of February.
Nick is going to Denver for the Super Bowl. Is the Super Bowl
Well,
being
not
played in Denver?
No,
Or
I'm not going for the Super Bowl. I'm going for my grandma's like 80th birthday
Oh.
or some birthday. Her birthday happens to fall on
one of those old
the
people's birthday after a
happens
certain
to fall
number.
on the Saturday before, the 8th. And so we're going for that so that Rachel can meet all of that side of the family because she hasn't met them before.
Ooh.
And then we're actually going to be flying back Sunday.
Okay.
I thought about staying to try to watch the Super Bowl there with them, but because of the time difference, it starts so late and it goes for like 3 to 4 hours
Right.
that we would end up leaving there really late. So I chose to instead leave around 4 o'clock. So we'll be in the air while the Super Bowl's going on.
Oh, cool. We'd be watching it with everybody else on the plane.
Oh, I could. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and so that's so you're forewarned. 2 weeks.
You just cut out. You just cut out. I cannot hear you. The gremlins the gremlins tracked her down again. Sorry. Yes, as you can see, that's been happening like all through the setup that we had. Is it works for a while, and then something, and I guess she switched browsers. She used to be using Chrome, and now she's using Firefox, and it's still messed up. So it's not just the browser; it's a larger issue. Excuse me. Yeah, that mustard soda. Yeah, the Gremlins found her, and they will follow her from browser to browser, and yeah, track that down. In the meantime, I guess I'll get into what I've been playing. Let me get the right banner up. No surprise, I've been playing the same thing I've been playing for the past like 3 months, for the past dozen weeks, but I finally finished it. I finished Metaphor ReFantasio just in time to dig into like a couple of indie games, and then Kingdom Come comes out. So I finished one, you know, all-consuming game just in time to start another all-consuming game. But Metaphor ReFantasio, uh, it's interesting. Last week I was sick, and so we didn't have the podcast. And if I had come on last week to talk about the game, I would have been down on it more because I was in the home stretch. The way the game is structured is you'll often be given like a deadline of something that happens. Like the whole thing is separated into days. Like you do an activity and that takes a day. You do an activity at night and then the day passes and you go on to the next day. Do an activity during the day, do an activity at night, next day. And so you'll get this deadline of some big event happening in like 2 weeks. Are you back? No. Okay. I'm going to keep talking. So you'll get this deadline of something that happens in 2 weeks. And so you have 14 days to kind of figure out how do you want to spend your time. Do you want to go to a dungeon? That takes a day. Do you want to spend time raising your follower rank, like getting to know one of the characters? That takes a day, and so on and so forth. The last stretch of the game, it gives you like 25 days. And that it gives you plenty of time to max out the rank with all your followers, to do all the side quests, and that's nice. But it only gives you 3 side quests to do at that time, and all 3 of those are optional bosses that are kind of a pain in the ass. Are
I'm
you
here.
back? You're back. Okay, good.
We have switched back to Chrome off of Firefox because
Mm.
Firefox, it does not play well with StreamYard.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how
But
long Chrome
they
lasts.
did make a critical difference that I haven't had to do before. But I have a dock that is a powered my laptop, and then of course connects all of my second screen and the Scarlet and everything else. In this case, I've always gotten a little notification saying, "Hey, this dock is kind of underpowered for this laptop," which it shouldn't be, but it is for some reason. I have never had an issue with that. Today, I was noticing that when I lose connection, I was getting a really weird symbol on my power, the battery little symbol.
Mm.
So I just plugged in a second power supply into the laptop to see if that
Okay.
might have something to do with it. It seems to be happy with that. It might
Okay.
be a power issue. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We'll see how long this one lasts.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. During the final stretch of this game, like the last big deadline you get, you have 25 days, and the side quests you get are optional bosses that aren't really interesting dungeons. Like the dungeons you've already done, and so it's all about the boss. But these bosses, you get 3 of them. There is a specific order that you should do them in that the game does not tell you. And so if you do them out of order, it makes them so desperately difficult, way more than they should be. And like trying to get through those fights, some of them were a real grind. The first one especially, because a lot of these dragons, what their gimmick is they will do something that gives them more turns. The way the combat system works, you get 4 turn icons. And if you attack someone, that turn icon disappears and you got 3 left. If you hit someone with their weakness, you get half a turn icon. And so that means you get to do an extra action. So it's always nice to like play around with weaknesses for these bosses. These bosses, what they do is they'll have 2 turn icons and then they'll do a move that adds 6. And so all of a sudden, they just have all these attack moves and they just wail on you. And so the fights become these really long, drawn out grind sessions where I buff him and I debuff him, I buff my guys, heal my guys, then attack once. His turn. He debuffs my guys, buffs himself, doesn't heal, but then just spends the rest of the time attacking. And so each turn, I only get like 1 chance to attack. And so even though I was doing good damage, even though I could keep my people alive, like it wasn't challenging, it wasn't difficult, but it was just a long, protracted fight. And that was kind of annoying. But what I realized after the fact is that you can get an accessory for a character, which makes it so if they dodge an attack, the opponent loses all of their turn icons. And at that stage in the game, you have a character who has like 90 out of 100 agility, a character who can dodge lots of attacks. And I only figured this out after the fact, and it would have made the fight so much less of a slog. And so because of that, because of kind of having to slog my way through these optional bosses, last week I would have been really down on the game as I went through this final stretch. But now, after having completed it, after having seen it through all the way to the end,
So you did complete. I missed that. You
it
have
yes, I did.
completed
I've finished it.
this
It
game.
ends really well. It has a super strong ending that not only like takes all of the themes that it's been working with and brings them together in an interesting way. Uh, it's kind of funny for a game named Metaphor. A lot of the metaphors in it are like actually very literal. Like this is a game that gets very meta in like the characters acknowledge their existence within a fictional story, but then kind of take that a step further and go, well, if we acknowledge our existence in this fictional story, doesn't that make us real in a way that is no longer fiction? And it plays around with the whole idea of fantasy. Weirdly enough, as I was playing this game, as I was especially going through the ending, I kept thinking of Barack Obama of all people. And not because of
What?
it, not because of anything that he did, but because I know that his biography was
Mhm.
called The Audacity of Hope. And like that specific term, that title, I kept thinking of that as I played through the end of this game because that kind of really sums up the end of this game. Its whole thesis statement is that fantasy can be used to envision a better world. That, you know, if you live in this world that's really awful, fantasy has an escape. It's not just an escape, but it's a vision of how things can change. And these characters are inspired by a fantasy book to like change the world. And so they're kind of driven by the audacity of hope for a better world. They're inspired by a fantasy book to make the reality into that fantasy that is a better world than the one they exist in. And the way it plays around with that and what it means, not just for the characters, but for like the themes, like this is a fantasy game and the characters are inspired by fantasy. Like there are layers of storytelling, layers of fantasy going on. And the game kind of acknowledges all that and plays around with it and doesn't shy away from it and kind of embraces all of the messiness that is involved in that in a way that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, so it ends really strong. I will say for a while there, especially in that last stretch, I was like, I just got access to the final tier of like superpowers, but it takes a long time to level those things up. And I was like, I'm one dungeon away from the end. How am I going to level up all these things? Well, that last dungeon is just dirty with grinding spots
Hmm.
where you can, but not like extended grinds. I
Right.
mean, there's a spot literally right before you go to the boss of the game, literally right before, where it spawns a whole bunch of, there are things there that can spawn a whole bunch of enemies, and you can just sit there and kill those enemies, and you just rake in the experience. You do that for just a simple 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you can rank up all of these superpowers that you have. You can rank up all of your characters themselves. And so uh, I spent like just an hour kind of doing that, completely maxed out all the superpowers for the protagonist. And that just kind of gave me a much better variety of things to do in the final battle. And it was really cool. So that also helped because going into it, I was worried that that final level of superpowers would be reserved for New Game Plus. Um, but it's not. Like you can actually take those final archetypes, those final powers, and use them in the final dungeon. And like I've always been kind of annoyed at a game where the level up system, like the progression system, isn't quite tied to the game itself. Like either you max out the level, you get to the max level, and then the game just keeps going,
Hmm.
or like you hit the max level, like right, the game ends right before you hit the max level. It's like, it's not quite there. This one is like they match perfectly. And I kind of wish that maybe I maxed it out a little bit more toward the end. Like some of these final archetypes are really cool. The powers that they get are really neat, and it would have been fun to play around with them a little more. But I'm glad I at least got to play around with them for the final boss.
And you've never played a Persona game, have you?
No,
I'm really glad that you played this because I don't want to say it's a Persona game, but
it follows the same structure.
it's the same structure. It's
The
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 same
day
structure, a
night
lot of the same
cycle, the
art
calendar
style.
structure.
Yeah, the only thing that's different really as far as I can see is some of the way that you work with your squad, and the story, the characters
Oh
who
yeah,
are really interesting.
this does not take place in a high school.
It well, that's the thing is it is a high school there's high school students by day, but then there's this alternate universe where they are
Yeah,
masked
I'm just
fighters.
saying none of these characters are high school characters,
Yeah.
but they're good characters.
Mhm.
Like the character work is one of the really impressive things about it.
Well, that's Persona. I mean, you are now appreciating absolutely everything about why Persona is so popular, so beloved, so long, and so satisfying.
Yes.
Why people will spend 200 hours in that game to finish it.
And I will never play another one again because I don't want to put another 150 hours into this game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Although to be fair, I left it running for a bunch of times, so it's probably only like 120 hours, but that's still.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
but that's what these games are. They are that you get a big bang for your buck, dude. There's no
I
shortage.
don't need that much bang. I want smaller bang. Give me a smaller
Give
bang.
a little bang, little baby bang.
Give me a baby bang.
Oh, if Goalie were here, what he would do with that.
I look, man. I just want to bang a baby.
Don't bang babies. And now we have the title of the episode. In fact, changing it now. Don't
God.
bang babies. You played that, obviously finished it. You're not going to go back
Yes.
to it. What are you going to do now?
There are a couple indie games that have come out this week. One is sequels to like things that I loved the last year, but like a couple years ago that I didn't even know were coming out. Tales of Iron, that like kind of 2D Souls like where you play as a rat, has a sequel coming out on Wednesday.
Mhm.
Ender Lilies, like a Metroidvania Souls-like game that I really loved, has a sequel that's already out and I already bought. I'm looking forward to getting into that. The developers of Blasphemous have a new game that's nothing like Blasphemous. So I got a lot of smaller things to play before Avowed and Kingdom Come in February. You changing the name? Yeah. Don't bang babies. Oh no, that meant that her apparently the power supply was not enough. That is frustrating. Yeah, I just saw AC Ray. The podcast runs on 2 hamster wheels. That is very true. Oh she's back already. Are you back? No. See I still need to play the first Tales of Iron. I tested to make sure it works and didn't go back. What did you have to test about it? Like, it's not really a resource-intensive game. It also doesn't seem like the kind of game that you usually play. So, like, if you had a demo or something of it, that's really cool. Although on Steam, you kind of have a demo of every game. Let's see. I didn't really play anything else, and so we just have to move on to news. So I'm gonna delete that. AC Wraith, I tested my Steam purchases before sales end just in case I need to return them. It's a good idea. Yeah, I love the first Tales of Iron. I kind of did everything in that game. It's like a simple, straightforward game, but it just feels really good to play. Like the dodge feels good, the attack feels good, and the bosses are the appropriate level of hard. Yeah, it was really good. I'm excited for the sequel that I had no idea existed until like 2 weeks ago. Okay, so with Edie gone, I'm not going to do the news sound, but I am just going to jump into the news itself. So let's not start with the big stuff yet, since Edie's not here. A couple weeks ago, there was a news story that the Until Dawn movie would not follow the story of Until Dawn. And we kind of laughed about that, thinking, well, then what's the point of making an Until Dawn movie? Well, it turns out that Sony has now talked about the premise of the movie, and god damn it, it actually sounds pretty good. It's about a group of kids who are stuck in like kind of a time loop where excuse me, I need to drink more mustard soda to clear my throat. They're stuck in a time loop, but each time loop is like a different horror movie. And so the movie is kind of capturing the repeatability and the looping of those games where, it's like a choose your own adventure. And they're kind of incorporating that premise into the movie. And you know what? God damn it. That actually is a cool idea. And I'm really down for it. So we laughed before about how the movie wasn't actually based on the game. But it turns out the movie is actually just being inspired by the game. So, yeah, excited about that now. Also, one of the things that happened in this past week, Suicide Squad had its final update. The game is now fully dead, which kind of is to be expected. I think when it launched, they had announced about a year's worth of DLC characters and expansions, and a year later, they ran through that course, and as soon as it's over, they shut it all down. But what's really disappointing is that the final update, the final little story thing that we get, reveals that the entire premise was a lie, because all the Justice League members that you killed throughout the game, yeah, turns out they were clones. And not like, oh, you killed the Justice League and an alternate dimension Justice League came in to save the day. No, you killed clones. And so the Justice League people from our dimension are still alive, except for Wonder Woman, who was the only one who didn't turn evil and was killed in the story, but she's still dead. But that's okay, right? No one cares. And it just feels like such a lazy, frustrating thing to go through all this saga only to reveal that the premise, which was like the only thing the game really had going for it, was its dedication to its premise that you would kill the Justice League. And it turns out that none of that was actually true. And it's an appropriately ignoble end for an ignoble game. And it's like, at least now we don't have to think about it anymore. Okay, what else? Oh, let's not talk about the Switch yet. We'll wait till Edie comes back for that. I don't want to talk about. Okay. I'm gonna need to look at the story for this. So, in the wake of Concord, oh, I heard a little click.
I'm back.
Ha ha!
So, yeah, I have just. I went in to go test, like I left and I came back and I tested my microphone. Even though it said it was supposed to be going to my headset, it was playing the test speaker out of my second screen. I don't know why. So I have disconnected my second screen. And I'm just going to go with one screen. Let's see if that changes anything.
One of these troubleshooting things should work.
Yeah, one of them's got to work. I unplugged the Scarlet and restarted it, and we'll see. I don't know. But anyway, Sony canceled, spelled wrong.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. In the wake of Concord, Sony seems to have gone on a killing spree. And they have now canceled 2 live service games that were in production at Bend Studio and Bluepoint Games.
Okay.
Bend Studio was the studio behind Days Gone, and Bluepoint was the one behind the Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls remix. So both of them were working on live service games. One of them, I believe the Bluepoint game, was rumored to be a live service God of War spinoff. We don't know what Bend was working on. I can hear myself. Whatever you did, I got it. Oh, okay. Echo gone.
Yeah, I don't know what that was because I
Okay.
didn't do anything.
Yeah, we don't know what Bend was working on, but it's rumored to be a live service game. Both those are gone. What's not mentioned in the original Kotaku story is that I think there's rumors that NC Soft was working on a Horizon live service game, which is different from the Horizon multiplayer game that Guerrilla Games is working on. But that NC Soft Horizon MMO is now also canceled. So Sony is just clearing house. Oh my God, Edie, what is going on? What the fuck? Just use the laptop mic. Like if all of this is okay, I gotta text her. If all of this is an issue with the headphones, just use the laptop. Just use the laptop mic. If the headphones are causing so much of an issue. Okay. Yeah. Point is, Sony has clearly gotten cold feet on their live service initiative. And I can't say that I'm that sorry. Look, I really loved Helldivers. Helldivers is cool, but Helldivers is also kind of the antithesis of a live service game. Yes, it's got like battle passes and it's got a whole bunch of continuous updates, but it's also just it's just a multiplayer game. And there's something about Helldivers that feels like an old school multiplayer game, not a, big, huge live service game that's kind of meant to take over your life the way a lot of these other games seem that they want to be, that they want to do. Um, in retrospect, I think the biggest tragedy from all of this whole push for live service is that we basically went a whole generation where like all these studios didn't get to put out a game. Like Naughty Dog hasn't actually made a game for the PS5. They announced Intergalactic at the Game Awards, but like that may be the only PS5 game that they make. They remade The Last of Us, but that doesn't quite count. Like they put all their resources into a live service game that was canceled. And that's time that they could have been spent working on a single player adventure that we will never see. That's time you can't get back. Blue Point, which did wonderful remakes of Demon Souls and Shadow Colossus, they could have remade something else from the catalog or come out with an original game. But we won't see that because they got kind of sucked into this live service black hole. Same with Bend. All these studios kind of got sucked into the live service black hole. And the biggest tragedy is that we won't see what they could have done with that time. Instead of working on games that ended up being canceled, they could have given us something else. But we'll never see that. And so this entire generation has kind of been lacking in these games because all the games that they were working on just went nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I missed most of that, but honestly, I'm not. It doesn't break my heart. What breaks my heart is all of the work that people put into these games
Yeah.
that were really flawed at their inception because everyone was chasing the live service, monkey. Everybody was trying to catch that ride on that train. And that train had very limited seats and probably ended up pretty much going nowhere. So I'm sad that a lot of time was wasted that could have been used better on better games, but
Yeah.
wasn't. So
Okay. Do you have a story for us?
I do, and I will appreciate if you would put up a banner because all of my banners get screwed up when I leave and come back.
Okay.
All right. So, you were talking about Sony. One of the big games that I was obviously looking forward to, and once again, my streak of every time I buy a collector's edition for a game, the game ends up sucking. Sony in a press release today or this week, actually I think it was last week. No, it was this week. Made mention of Dragon Age Veilguard and
Oh, you mean
also
EA?
that's what I said. Did I say Sony? I
Yeah,
meant
yeah.
EA, yeah. EA revealed that both Dragon Age Veilguard and their soccer football slash soccer title, EA Sports FC 25, have both quote unquote underperformed. And they did give details about how much, especially Dragon Age, has underperformed. So they said it was announced via a press release that their preliminary findings of the statistics of the purchases and usage of these two games. It says preliminary results for the third fiscal quarter showed, and they had to revise their projections in terms of net bookings, which is basically the amount of cash the game brought in. And they had to adjust that they anticipated mid-single digit growth to mid-single digit growth in the amount of cash that the game was bringing in. Now they're seeing mid-single digit decline in cash because of these games. So they are actually losing money on these games instead of making money.
And I
Here's
think
the
it's
actual quote. During Q3, we continued to deliver high quality games and experiences across our portfolio. However, Dragon Age and EA Sports FC 25 underperformed in our net bookings expectations. In other words, how much money that they're putting back into the company. This month, our teams delivered a comprehensive gameplay refresh in addition to our annual Team of the Year update in FC25. Positive player feedback and early results are encouraging. We remain confident in our long-term strategy and expect a return to growth in fiscal year 26. So yeah, obviously they're not going to abandon EA Sports Football, FC, anything ever. But Veilguard, he said, attracted about 1.5 million players, which is a lot.
Yeah, and
during the quarter.
And like they specified engagements, which wasn't quite the same as sales.
It's not sales.
Because
of
the game was like available on EA's subscription service. And
right.
so they're kind of tracking everyone who played the game, which includes subscription services, their own subscription service, in addition to sales.
Right. And they attracted approximately 1.5 million players in that fiscal quarter 3. The problem is that EA had expected to do double that and pull in 3 million. So even though it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, it's nowhere near what they were expecting for Veilguard. And honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Veilguard, don't get me wrong, it's a good game. It's a good game. But
yeah, we didn't talk about what you've been playing. How was?
Oh, I've actually not been playing Veilguard.
Okay.
Case in point, it just did not. I am playing it because I'm obligated to play it. I'm not playing it because the game is compelling me. I don't like the way it looks. I don't. It's a game, but it doesn't have that certain something that you need to make a game, great. Like Origins was a great game. But I have been playing, incidentally, and I'm going to wait for Nick to come back because he's going to laugh. So anyway, I'll continue on with the story. So yeah, Veilguard was a good game, not a great game. And we're hoping, I'm hoping that this isn't the end of Dragon Age, but I have a feeling it probably is.
This is the end of BioWare.
I don't think it's the end of BioWare, but I think it's the end of Dragon Age.
I say it's the end of BioWare because I don't think the next Mass Effect will be very good.
No.
I think this studio is different than the studio that made it originally.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is. It's a different studio.
They forgot how to tell good stories.
Well, they didn't forget. The people who told those stories left.
Yeah, they don't. They're
not there anymore.
That's not entirely true. They did bring back Mark Dara to work on Veilguard.
True.
To get it, under control. But it just doesn't tell me a story that I feel like hearing. That being said, the games that I am playing this week, I have re-downloaded and am replaying Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Talk
about a story that tells, by comparison, a 12-person studio sold a story.
No, it's not 12 people. It's got to be more.
No, it was 12. I believe it was either 12 or 22. It was some very small number.
There must be some contracts out. That game is massive.
Original. I know. They made that with a skeleton crew. And it's that good because they found a good story and they told that story well, so that I'm not even past the tutorial area in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, doing it again a second time when I know what the story is going to be, and I'm already once again committed to it. All I want to do is get back to that story and be in that. So anyway, I'm playing it in anticipation of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 being out on the 4th.
Yeah.
And I did not buy the collector's edition for a reason. I bought the gold edition, but not the plastic tat edition, because the plastic tat edition and we have a 100% perfect record of me buying the plastic tat editions and it being a disappointing game.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say Veilguard doesn't seem shitty, but it does seem just underwhelming.
Either underwhelming or just pure crap. Like, I mean, I did get the cool watch from
Starfield.
Starfield.
Yeah.
The watch was not worth it, but it was still pretty cool. I really do wish I had the $199 plastic tat package for Kingdom Come Deliverance because I would absolutely
What comes in
love.
that package?
It's a bunch of stuff. It's a cloth map. It's a
Hmm.
figurine. It's a bunch of other stuff.
Well,
Um,
look, just all you
and,
have to do is
and incidentally, the game. It comes with
oh.
the game. I know,
So
crazy, but that is a thing now.
you just need to wait for the game to come out and then buy the special edition.
Well, unfortunately, the special edition sells out almost instantly. So you have to
Mm,
jump in early and be confident. And I am very, very confident about this game. I have absolutely no reservations about it. But I didn't want to take a chance, and
it's
I
it's the
did
the
not.
superstitions.
It's not even a superstition at this point. I mean, we're talking about I am
I know Veilguard, Starfield, and Destiny are the ones that jump out to me. I thought there
yeah,
was another
Veilguard,
one.
Starfield, Destiny, and Fallout, not 76, but the one right before.
Oh, Fallout
I
4?
think it was Fallout 4.
Hmm.
It was not that great. It was good, but
Hmm.
not that great. But I ended up with Pip-Boy, which I'm happy
Oh,
with.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Pip-Boy.
Shonikin got it for me, which was very sweet.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, I got the Pip-Boy. I have the watch. I have the 2, count them, 2 packs of the Veilguard. So
I mean, you could turn that around for something.
probably not.
Someone out there will spend some amount of money on it.
Yeah, probably somebody bought it for $20.
Oh my god, I need to let the cat in before he breaks down the door.
Okay, you could do that. Hopefully, I don't lose you all because obviously plugging in a separate power supply did not fix our problem. So yeah, that is very upsetting when it comes to Veilguard that it did not do so well. And I agree. I think it's definitely the end of Dragon Age. I think
Yeah,
it is possibly the end of BioWare. I don't
I,
think that they're gonna shut down, but I don't think that they're gonna be making any more original games. They may be hired out to work on other games.
yeah. Oh, wait, I'm hearing an echo from me. Test, test. Oh, now it's gone. I don't know what the deal.
Oh, yeah.
Mass Effect is absolutely their last chance, but even that's like 4 or 5 years away, probably.
Yeah, they're really on life support at this
Yeah.
point.
But that said, I
Wait,
think it is worth.
oh, they're not going to
I can't hear you. It cut out. What? Whatever. Those fucking gremlins. Hey, cat, stop it. Uh-uh. Okay. Well, she deals with the gremlins, and I stop the cat from eating cables. I was gonna say, I think it is worth noting that like after this story from EA came out, their stock dropped a whole bunch. That's not really because of Dragon Age. That's because of FC, the franchise formerly known as FIFA. Because FIFA is where they make, well, FC is where they make all their money. So to see FIFA drop, that is a big deal. Dragon Age, single player RPG, blah, 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 it was always a risk. FC is like, that's what scares the investors. That's where the actual money is. So to see that drop, that is a much bigger deal. For us and like the purposes of GameHounds, let me get rid of that banner. For the purposes of GameHounds, we care more about what happens with Dragon Age. But EA and investors, they care about FC. Excuse me. Random Rick, RRR. Hey, and he says, just let them make a Star Trek game and use the Mass Effect engine. That would be cool. And you know what? I'm actually surprised there hasn't been more Star Trek games. I don't know what it is. Is Star Trek like just not enough of a like strong IP that game makers want to do something with it, or like do developers now are they just Star Wars games everywhere? But yeah, Star Trek seems to have kind of gotten tossed to the wayside for gaming.
All right, I am back. So I was going to say, if you
Oh my god, no, it stopped again. You got like 5 words, and now it's out. Um, oh, AC Races, I heard the MMO is okay. Is that MMO still going? That'd be impressive.
All right, I'm just gonna go without a headset. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Finally. I
Right.
told
I'm
you to
going
do
without a
that.
headset. I apologize for the audio. I do not know what's going on. I think it may be something with StreamYard itself because it's happening on multiple browsers. I go into my audio devices on Microsoft. It's not the headset. The headset's fine. I go into Microsoft, into my audio, my own like laptop settings, and I check, and it's like, is everything working? And it's like, yeah, everything's working. I can see that the microphone working. I can see that the earphones are working. Everything's working. I think there's something going on in StreamYard.
Are
It's
the
happening on
browsers
multiple browsers.
up to date? I guess that wouldn't matter if it's multiple browsers. That doesn't matter.
It's multiple browsers because it's happening in Firefox too. I don't. I don't think it's fine after that throwdown. Yeah, that's true. They're still here. I have not chucked them. That's just they live. They're alive. I'm not getting rid of them because I don't believe it's the headset. Anyway, so we were talking about how there was a related story I wanted to bring up about
Okay.
Veilguard. So Veilguard had a patch that sounds very much like it was a goodbye, like a final goodbye. And the question is it a final goodbye for Veilguard? Is it a final goodbye for Dragon Age? Or is it a final goodbye for BioWare? But it was definitely a goodbye. So this was the 5th patch that came out for Veilguard. And, they've been taking care of bug fixes and, essentially juicing the game up as much as possible since it came out when? The end of October, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a few months and about 5 patches. That's about the right cadence for patches to come out. And they've added a bunch of like extra stuff. Sometimes it's really lately been just a lot of Mass Effect gear in game that, that's what BioWare does, is it likes to remind you about how much you love their other games in every game that they have. So in the change notes for it, they added an interesting bit of language. Quote, "Thank you all for playing Dragon Age: The Veilguard. We were so happy with the game's stability at launch and hope you've enjoyed our quality of life patches since then. With the game being in a stable place, we're moving to monitor any game-breaking bugs should those occur. Dareth Shirel." Now, if you're not familiar what Dareth Shirel means in Elvish or Elven in the game, it means farewell. And well, I mean, actually, literally means safe journey. So it's not just like see ya. It's more of a goodbye, like a final goodbye. So I don't know what that means. Does it mean that that this is the last patch? Does it mean that the fact that it happened the same week that they had that announcement about Veilguard underperforming by 50%, that's a significant amount. I don't know if that means goodbye for, what's the scope of that goodbye?
I think it is the limited scope. I think this is just them saying there will be no more major patches.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In a world where Baldur's Gate 3 has gotten pretty big patches of update excuse me.
What is going on with you? You've been
I've got
coughing.
a persistent cough after being sick. Like the cough is
Oh,
still
okay.
there.
All right.
I just need to drink more mustard soda to clear my throat. Yeah, in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 kind of gets consistent update patches up to a year after the game came out, um, I think that they're kind of working with that expectation and saying, "Hey, just so you know, there's not going to be any big patches." Um, they had said before that they don't have any DLC plans, and so I think this is kind of more confirmation of that. Like, yeah, look, we're done with the game. We're moving on. Don't expect anything more.
Right. Yeah. I think that if that was said, independent of what had happened and what was said earlier in the week by EA, I would just say, oh yeah, they're just not going to be doing major quality of life patches anymore. You know, they're going to be doing bug fixes and that's it. So this is the game. This is the final form. The fact that it's happening this week is a little suspicious. It may be just coincidental, but it does
Yeah,
seem to me a wee bit suspicious. And to say something like Dareth Sharal, which is not just goodbye, but so long, farewell, Adbid, and saying goodbye.
hmm
Um, I think that it was a code for things are not good here. And yeah, this might be our last. We cannot confirm or deny what's happening behind the scenes, but we can say Dareth Sharal, and all of you will know exactly what it means.
yeah.
That we are all being led over to the gallows, and you will not be hearing from us soon. I think that's more of what it was, because that's the only reason why they would go like that.
Maybe.
Why would they say goodbye if they're not doing, end of quality of life? They're still around.
Yeah. And I could see the truth being somewhere in between, which is that support was always planned to end here.
Right.
But after that earnings, people inside BioWare kind of like see the end is coming, and so
Mhm.
they're like, "Hey, this is the last message we're gonna post about updates. Let's use this already planned update to kind of say goodbye because we see the writing on the wall."
Yeah. We know
So
it's
like
coming.
so like this lack of updates is not a result of it not selling well. It was always planned to not be updated, but they're just going to use this last chance to like say goodbye,
Right.
which I don't necessarily think is the case, but it's entirely possible.
So yeah, those are my two stories. God, your spelling is terrible.
What Veilgod's latest
beggars and choosers.
patch?
I
What
cannot.
Veilgod's latest patch sounds like a goodbye? What was the
GUARD.
Oh, there was an R missing. Yeah. Hey, I'm typing up on the
Yeah,
fly here.
beggars and choosers. I cannot, I'm not doing it myself. So,
Okay. Well, I have
you get what you pay for.
I
Good
have
help is hard to find.
exactly. I'm doing this shit for free. I have 3 stories.
Okay.
One of which is kind of like a huge story because it encompasses basically like the past 20 years of game industry financials.
Mhm.
Nothing major. Just a timeline of everything that has happened. But before we get into that, which is kind of a downer,
Mhm.
and part of it is my own cynicism coming through, interpreting this guy's numbers. But before we get to that, let's talk about fun things. Nintendo finally announced the Switch 2. They didn't announce shit other than the Switch 2, but they announced that the Switch 2 is coming. And
Which we
honestly,
knew. We knew this. This
it
is
was the
not.
worst kept secret. Basically, they didn't announce anything that comes with it.
It was the worst kept secret since my relationship with Chris.
And like, I don't know. I get that people are excited about the Switch 2. I'm looking forward to it. I like my Switch. I think it's cool. But this feels like Nintendo's hand being forced because everything about it was leaked ahead of time. Basically, it was an announcement trailer that then said, we'll give you more information in April.
Yep.
And it's like, well, then that means April is going to be when we find out all the things we actually care about. We knew you were working on this. We
Right.
didn't need an announcement trailer.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because they couldn't really conceivably hand out all this information without at some point acknowledging that, yes, there is, like, even though it is the worst kept secret, they still had to go through the motions.
Yes, but I feel like at this point, if you announce the Switch, give us all the information, right? Like, give us the cool announcement trailer, and then tell us about the new features. Tell us what games are coming out for. Tell us the price. Tell us the release date. Like, I'm sure they know all that stuff. Why not give that to us now? Why make us wait for that information?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm sure that they want to release that information in their own time, in their own place,
Oh, I'm sure
where
they do,
it suits them best.
and that's what's frustrating.
And it's going to be in June.
No,
That's
they've
my
already
prediction.
They've already said April.
They said April, which is
Yeah.
odd. Usually that stuff comes out in June, in the ersatz E3 era.
I'll bet that they.
Oh, poor Nick.
At least I have a headphone I can mute and unmute really easily.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Show off.
Hey, how you
Fuck you. Fuck
This-
you. It's
I
like,
have
I
no
can turn
idea.
it off. I can turn it on. I
Probably
can turn
sound-
it off. I can turn it on.
Sorry about that. That probably sounded terrible.
It did.
What was I saying? I forget what I was saying. I think that the Switch will probably release in June. I think if
You
they're
think
going
it's
to give us
gonna be
more
that soon?
information,
You think that they're
in
that
April-
close?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think they're waiting for the last second to tell anyone.
Why
about
would they
anything.
release in June? Why? Why
'Cause-
June?
Summer, kids are out, they get a buy. I believe the first Switch was like about a 6-month turnaround from announcement to release.
Well, that would make it September, which makes more sense.
Blah blah blah. What's about
At
Switch
least
2?
my opinion is
No,
September would make more
Switch
sense.
1.
Although, that's the thing about Nintendo. You cannot look at Nintendo's consoles in the same way that you would look at Sony and Microsoft. They will always release September, October, November because they want to hit the Christmas rush. Nintendo releases whenever the hell a Nintendo wants to because it's Nintendo.
Yeah, the original Switch released in March in 2017.
Wow. Was it that long ago? God.
Yeah.
That is the only console I never purchased is a Switch. I mean other than in the modern era. In the modern era.
Now you don't need to.
Yeah, I guess.
You could have let Nick soothe his throat with carbonated bubbles, but no. Yeah, you know what? I'm almost done with the mustard soda. Well, not almost, but I might have to open another one just for my throat.
If you want to open another one, you can, but you have to put it up for vote.
Delicious.
Mustard. I love mustard. All right, so yeah, worst kept secret. You say March.
I say June. Okay, so yeah.
Oh, you said June. You said June is when you think it's going to release. Okay, AC Wraith, get out the little prediction post-it. Nick says June release of the Switch 2. I'm saying September release of the Switch 2.
According to Wikipedia, the Switch was unveiled October 20th, 2016, and it was then released March 17th,
November, December,
2017.
January, February,
so from October to March.
5.
Yeah, 5 months. So January, February, March, April, May, June. There you go. I'm gonna say June. I like how that number played out.
Oh, that's true. I was counting from the other. Yeah, that's. I would have said. I thought June. I was thinking from the moment that they released details, which is in March. 6 months, but it's actually from the announcement. So yeah, June does make sense.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say July. I'm going to say July.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and the teaser.
It might just be the first couple of days of July.
It could. The teaser for this did tease a couple new features, and so it just led to more speculation. Like the Joy-Cons will not slot down into it, but instead like attach to the sides with magnets. And there was a tease that
I'm
the
going to see if I
Joy-Cons
can
might
pull
be
up
able to be
a
used as
video of that.
mice. Yeah, it's only like a 2-minute video. And yeah, being able to use it as a mouse might be interesting. That kind of opens up a new avenue of potential games you could play with it. Although using it as a mouse, it's already got a motion sensor in it. So like you can just use it as a, you know, like, what would that be called? What's a mouse that you don't need to use on a floor? Like a freestanding mouse, a 3D mouse?
That you don't need to use on a
pointer? Yeah, like what would you call the Wiimote? Is that like a pointer?
I would call that a pointer, like a, yeah, what would you call that?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to have a good name for it.
There's got to be.
Bookmark, GameHounds 77, something, something. No, check the name. The name has changed.
The
name of the
Joy-Cons
episode has changed.
Yeah, the Joy-Cons can be used as pointers, and so making them also usable as mice feels a little redundant, but potentially cool. Don't eat cables, stupid cat. Oh, okay. You got the video coming up?
Oop, hold on a second. There we go. Oop, hold on. No. There we go. There now. Okay.
Audio's not the only thing the Gremlins are messing with.
This is the Switch 2? Yeah, this is Switch 2.
Yes,
right?
this is. Yes.
Okay.
And look, this is kind of a cool video. Even if I think the announcement was lackluster, it's a neat video. I would have liked if this video was then followed by like an actual kind of press conference about all its features.
Right. Well, they're going to do that in March.
Yeah.
They don't want to ask any questions.
It's a little
Well, it's interesting. They're going from it being red and blue to actually looking like a grown-up console.
Yeah, it's got a little hint of red and blue in the controllers to hint at that.
Right, but it looks more grown-up. It doesn't look like a toy.
Which is weird because
a little
like
toyish.
The Switch is a toy. Like it's a kid's console.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo knows this. They lean into it. Yeah, this is it kind of being used like a mouse.
Oh, I see. That's kind of interesting. That is very interesting.
Slot into the sides instead of like sliding down on the metal rails.
See, that starts to make it look like a what's the Steam box? Steam Deck.
Oh, Steam Deck, yeah.
It looks like a Steam Deck. And I think that's a very good thing. So yeah, I may get it. I don't know. I don't know if I would want to switch. I don't know. Hard to know what my life is going to be. I don't even know where I'm going to be living in 6 months. I might still be here in 6 months for all I know. Actually, according to, by the way, update on that, according to my contractor who collected 2 5-figure checks from me yesterday, about 3 weeks until I get my bathroom back.
Okay.
Oh, did you hear about, I will tell you, if you feel like it afterwards, I will tell you about, like, every time I walk into my house, there is a new nightmare hellscape that has occurred. I will tell you about the next one.
Okay, but that's just the bathroom. I thought there was more going on.
Stairs. I received the permits for the stairs from the city after 6 months. Now, this is insane. I wasn't making any changes to the stairs. I was taking out dry rotted stairs and replacing them exactly with the same the same stairs.
The same dry rotted stairs.
Yeah. No, not dry rotted. And I was bringing them up to code. That's the only thing that I did. And it took them 6 months to finally sign off. But that happened last week. So construction is on the stairs and construction on the bathroom will restart on Monday. And they're going on in high gear at this point.
Okay. Do they have defenses against the knife-wielding rats?
Well, we are down at least 2 of those.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we have set mouse traps, rat traps, and we have captured them in very gruesome ways, but it was very satisfying. And the latest, well, now I'll tell you later.
Okay. Okay.
I
What's
don't want
later?
to slow down the podcast, but yeah, there's a
Okay.
whole new level of hell that has been entered this last week.
I'm sorry. That sucks.
Yeah. So I'll tell you about it later. Like, think of like one more possible thing that could fucking go wrong to just fucking fuck me over. It happened. All right. Anyway,
Earthquake. Bats?
if only.
Skunks.
If only.
There's a colony of bats living in the thing that shall not be named.
If only.
Okay. Then move on.
The remaining bats found her Steam Deck. Well played, AC Wraith. Well played. No. We have yet to find the Steam
That's
Deck.
why they're no longer there. They got the Steam Deck and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's book. Let's leave.
Let's book it, guys.
Yeah.
And the other one going, you don't need to leave. She'll never miss it.
That's what the knife is. There was a fight over the Steam Deck. Anyways, okay. Xbox had a direct where they showed off 4 new games. The first of those was a surprise announcement of Ninja Gaiden 4 from Team Ninja, which looks cool. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden, kind of popular. I never quite got into it. What's more cool though is that they also announced a remake of Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden Black, which was shadow dropped during the announcement. And so it's on Game Pass right now. You can go check it out anytime. And now that I'm free from the shackles of metaphor, I'm tempted to download it and check it out because I never got into Ninja.
You don't want to do that, dude. It's January 26th. You do not want to get into anything at this point.
Look, Kingdom Come, I will not let that. That will not be the only thing I play for the next 3 months, like metaphor. I can like kind of ease in and out of that.
Oh, you say that.
I do
But
say
that's
that.
what happened to me with Kingdom Come.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, so they shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden Black, which is really cool. They showed off more from South of Midnight, the kind of southern stop motion inspired third player action adventure game coming from Compulsion Games, which again, excuse me, sorry, looks really cool. What is neat, all the stuff they showed off is like coming this year, and mostly like really soon. I think Ninja Gaiden 4, we don't have a release date for it yet. But like I said, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is already out. South of Midnight is coming April 8th. They showed off, to my pleasant surprise, a deep dive into Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is kind of, other than Kingdom Come, my most anticipated game, just because I like the premise, I like the style and everything about it. And they did a deep dive on that one. That is releasing on April 24th. And I think one of the neat things about this particular reveal is previous trailers have really gone hard on like kind of the downer existential disaster. The premise is that like this god called the painter or the paintress like paints a number on a rock and everyone older than that number dies.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very Logan's Run.
Expedition 33 is like the word number 33 got painted on there. And it's about this group of people who are trying on a quest to kill the paintress before she wipes out the entire world.
Got it. Because let me guess, they're all 32 years old.
Probably something like that. I don't know their exact age. But what was neat about this deep dive is they showed off a lot of the more comedic elements about it. How one of the people in your party is like this this funky ass looking dude in a bell who's just like kind of a weird guy who transforms. And then you'll meet this other character who's like this kind of big puffball. Do you remember The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yes.
It's not Ookie Bookie. It's not Oogie Bookie Spelookie. What was the name of the bad guy? This dude right here. What was the name of the bad guy from The Nightmare Before Christmas? It was like Ookie something. Ookie
Oogie
Dookie.
Boogie Man.
Oogie Boogie, yeah. This reminds me of Oogie Boogie, but like a cute Oogie Boogie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, seeing that this game that's so had previously gone heavy on like the existential terror, having it seeing like a lighter side of it is nice. Knowing that hey,
Mhm.
this is not going to be like it's not always going to be a downer of a game. There is a tonal variety to it, and I think that's important. So
That's what
again,
makes that's what makes good storytelling.
yeah. So yeah, excited for that. And then they showed off Doom: The Dark Ages.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about Doom is how much bigger it is and how it sounds like uh, wait, AC Wraith said, "Can you be free from metaphors when you use a metaphor to express that freedom?"
The answer
Look,
is no.
don't think too hard about it. Don't make me think too hard about it. But Doom sounds like it's kind of a more open worldy action adventure where you'll be
Yeah,
able
it does,
to
doesn't it?
roam these large areas and you'll come across free roaming groups of enemies, and you can choose whether to take them out or not. And in interviews after this reveal, they've talked about one of the big features is the dragon, that you'll be able to ride that dragon, and that's kind of a major mechanic of using the dragon riding to traverse the environment. And so it almost sounds like Doom being blown up into Doom meets Skyrim. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I
That's
never,
a very good sounding game right
yeah,
there. In
like
three words.
I never got into the second Doom. But this is interesting enough that like, this is a change in direction that I wasn't expecting. This is kind of
Right.
cool.
But it's good. It's a good idea.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's blowing the premise up. Like Doom has kind of always been not necessarily a linear shooter, but it's been very focused and driven. Like
Right.
it's funneled you down areas, and that's been its big strength. Is its kind of its ability to craft set pieces for you. And
Right.
so this is definitely different because it will no longer be quite as linear and quite as crafted. But depending on how they do it, it could be cool. Could be very good. I'm excited for it.
Be very cool. All right. Let's see. What's my next item? So we already talked about Dragon Age. Oh, and I lost all of my tabs. Of course I did. Let me see if I can get back to my tabs.
Like Chrome.
Here's a story that I actually saw right after our last episode. So,
Good night, Rick.
have you heard about this sci-fi sim called Fortune's Run? It's
No.
okay. So it is obviously an indie game. It's an RPG shooter. A lot of people played it in 2023. They absolutely loved it. The early access game's future has been, it is in early access. So this game is, the future of this game is very questionable of what's going to happen because the developer of it announced that she was going to jail. She goes by, I'm assuming it's a she, by Dizzy on Steam. She announced last Tuesday night, quote, I've been, and they did this on, I think it, oh, she wrote on her Steam page. It was on her Steam page that she wrote it. Quote, I've been sentenced to prison for the next 3 years. It's a long story, but I've lived a very different life before I was a game developer. I wasn't living very well. My case is about 5 years old now, I have been going through the legal process the whole time I've been working on this. I've finally been found guilty and sentenced, and I'm going away next month. So no explanation for what it is that she is going to prison for, but she's going to prison for apparently 3 years. She did go on. It's a shame, but it's the consequences of my actions. I was a very violent person and I hurt a lot of people in my life. Unfortunately, the sentence isn't going to help with that at all, but I guess we all know that. So the game isn't totally dead, but unfortunately, due to even further bad things happening, it's unclear what will happen. Going on. I know many of you will be upset and disappointed, but please understand that there's absolutely nothing I can do. Those wheels were in motion long before I started making this game, and it's just been slowly unraveling in my face the whole time. I want to underline that I am no longer in financial dire straits since our game actually sold okay. So I should be able to afford rent once I get out. So there's a chance that if you wait a few years, I'll be able to cap off the release. In fact, there's not very much content left to work on. I've been making stubs and prototypes of the missing levels in my spare time.
I mean, look, 3 years, that's average game design time.
Yeah. But to be so close to the end
Yeah.
of this game and then not be able to complete
mean-
it, especially when it's, like in early access, it's about to be completed and it's actually getting really good reviews and it's getting a lot of attention. And have
It's
this
also
happen.
wild to think that a game that was in development for 3 years is going to stop development because of a court case that took 5 years to complete.
Right.
That this has been ongoing for 5 years.
This has been going on for 5 years and it has been, it was in the works for 2 years before this game started development. I mean, I don't.
It's so that legal process is so slow that at a certain point it defeats its entire purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Random Rick Review says he's heading out to play some games. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Have a good night, Rick. And if you have not gone to Random Rick Reviews, he does have a YouTube channel that I will, once I find the, here we go. Please feel free to drop a like or drop a watch and a like, and even a subscribe into Random Rick Reviews if he is a friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were saying. It's sad.
That sucks that something so long ago kind of comes back to bite you.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know what it is. Maybe she fully deserves it. We don't know.
Well,
but
she didn't say she didn't deserve it. Let's just say that.
But the idea that like it took 5 years to come to that conclusion is like, what was going on during that time? Like, really? You couldn't move a little faster?
Well, it's that old adage that the mill wheels of justice grind slowly but exceedingly fine. They just grind slowly, but they eventually get to somebody goes to prison.
Do they? Does it? Does it really?
Little people like us, maybe not the rich. Anyway, so yeah, that was my story. Next item is
okay. My next story, my final story, has a prelim, has a prologue.
Okay.
There were a lot of news stories that came out this past week about like analyst says GTA 6 could cost $100, and like that. The first site I saw that on was IGN, and then I feel like a lot of other people picked it up from there. And they all cited this guy, Matthew Ball from Epyllion, Epyllion, Epyllion. Don't know how to pronounce it.
Epyllion. I would say Epyllion.
It's like a consulting firm. And he put together this presentation on his website that basically goes over the history of the game industry, about what made it boom from 2011 to 2021, what made it crash from 2021 till now, and what the future looks like. And people were citing that when talking about GTA costing $100. And I just gotta say that it's a sign of the downfall of media literacy in the US that someone looks at this 224-page PowerPoint presentation with well-researched and intricate graphs on every single page, and their takeaway is the very last page. Some people say that if GTA 6 costs $100, that would let other game prices rise, and that could offset the inflation.
Which is not what the headline says.
Which
He
is
didn't
what-
say it could cost that.
No, well, he did, but like that's part of what is the future of gaming.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you could increase the price to offset inflation. That's the last point. The last point in a presentation that covers the past 20 to 30 years of gaming. And that's what people run with. The actual story presented in here is so much bigger.
But
But
it's
it's
not
like-
clickbait. It's not clickbait, and your average Joe would never read that
But here's the
article.
thing.
But you put in that
But here's
GTA
the
could
thing.
cost $100.
The actual information is just as clickbaity. The actual information is like, oh, this is a story people would click on. But it's like, did you forget? Did you read this and you got to the end and the last slide is the only thing you remember? Did like everything else just wipe from your mind? How? And I don't know what it was, but as I was reading this and it linked to the guy, I was like, I kind of want to like, oh, GTA $100, that's not going to solve the issues of the gaming industry. This guy is an idiot. And I thought, no, I shouldn't just call him an idiot. Let me read this. Turns out this guy knows a fucking thing or two.
Mhm. I'm interested in that report. I would love to see the whole report. And
I
you are going
will-
to-
I will link that in the chat here.
There it is right now.
Just look up, Google Matthew Ball, the state of video games, or the state of video gaming. And you can
It's
probably
at
find...
issuu.com,
Yes, it is.
which stands for what? International
I have no idea.
Society?
It's a place to put presentations, right? It's like a Dropbox equivalent.
It's called Issue. That's what it is. It's Issue.
Yeah.
ISSUU.
So I will start with the first thing that kind of stood out to me, and that was looking at the growth of gaming from 2011 to 2021.
Mhm.
One of the first things that stood out is how little of that was driven by consoles, how almost none of it was driven by consoles, how
Mhm.
during that time console sales were relatively flat, and what little growth there was mainly the result of longer time between cycles, giving people a chance to buy it, and mid-gen upgrades that kind of forced people who already bought a console to buy another console, right? You're kind of
Mhm.
double dipping. And
Right.
that was like a tiny bit of growth within the gaming. But for the most part, console sales have been flat for like the past 3 to 4 generations. You bought a PS3, you bought a PS4, you bought a PS4, you bought a PS5. That's it.
Mhm.
And just now, there was a Circana released information about the latest US gaming sales. And in it, turns out, hey, the PS5 is like selling exactly like the PS4 did.
Mhm.
Guess what? It's like neck and neck.
It's because everybody that has a PS4 is slowly converting over to PS5.
But they're not getting new people. It's the
No.
same audience. They've been selling to the same people.
Yes, that's the thing, is that the attrition of people no longer gaming to new kids coming on to game is offsetting itself. At this point in gaming history, in my very humble opinion, because I don't know anything about anything, you are either a console gamer or a PC gamer, and you've decided what you're going to do. If you're a PC gamer, you are buying the next video card as soon as it comes out. That's your conversion. They're your, periodic conversion to the latest. If you are a console gamer, you're just doing the same thing, but you're just replacing the old console with the new. And that's just how it is. Nobody's going to cross paths. If you're a console gamer, you're not going to want a PC. And you're not going to want to, because you won't stand for buying a new video card every 5 to 6 years
Yeah, that ain't me.
for $5,000.
So
Anyway,
he talks about that.
mhm.
PC, actually, hold that thought. I'll get to PC. Switch. The Switch is like a pretty major runaway success, right? Everyone
Right.
can agree. The Switch sold like hotcakes.
Right.
In terms of like growth of the industry, because a whole lot of this whole presentation is about what made the industry grow so much and what is making it shrink so much, and how can we possibly return to that growth. The Switch like added a little bit of growth. I think it was, let's see, I'm looking at it. Nintendo sales were boosted, by mid-gen upgrades. Basically, the Switch grew the audience a little bit. But really, what all of the Switch's sales come from is the cannibalization of Nintendo console and Nintendo handhelds.
Right.
Because Nintendo no longer has a handheld. Right? They used to have the GameCube and the Game Boy. They used to have the Wii and the DS. Now they just have the Switch. The Switch's popularity is basically Nintendo console plus Nintendo
Combining
handheld
its
combined together.
Global reach into one box.
And so even though like this was a huge selling device, grew a little bit, it's not like explosive growth.
No, it didn't.
So,
it didn't sell any more than previous consoles. It just was one console
that
being
took
purchased
two
by
things
two
into
consoles together, or two platforms being combined into one. So it looks like it sold double, but it really didn't.
Yeah.
Not a new Nintendo customer.
PC did have growth. And he talks about how PC is like a bright spot, adding 65% more content spend than living room consoles from 2011. So, basically, if you have a PC, you're spending more on games. 20 years ago, PC's share of non-mobile content spend was 29%. It's now about 53%. And while console has stagnated since 2021, PC has grown 20%. Keep that in mind, because we will come back to that.
Okay.
Basically, the main reason that the industry exploded was mobile. Mobile is what drove a whole bunch of new users. It's what drove a whole bunch of investment. It's what drove that explosive growth from 2011 to 2021. It wasn't consoles, it wasn't PC, it was mobile devices suddenly making gaming like more accessible to a massive audience.
Right.
And that investment was like a rising tide that lifted all ships, because you can say, has all the money went into mobile? You can say, look at the gaming industry. It's making so much money. That got people wanting to get into big budget gaming, where all the prestige was. They wanted the Oscar equivalent. And this happened at the perfect moment where you could develop a AAA game that looked good, that was mechanically interesting, for a relatively low budget, right? It was an explosion of investment at the same time that the industry was kind of affordable, at the same time that microtransactions were just coming in. And this is where we get into the financials, and good financials aren't necessarily good for gamers, But this was also the area where downloadable games were exploding. This was the era when microtransactions and DLC and expansions and live service was just coming onto the scene. Battle passes were coming onto the scene. All of these areas of monetization um, outside of the game sales, right? Post game sale revenue, microtransactions, battle passes, DLC, all that stuff was all happening at this time. And so you've got mobile exploding, you've got these post sale revenues exploding, you've got games being relatively cheap to make, kind of growing the industry, and all the money in the industry even has PC grew a little bit and console sales were kind of flat. Come to 2021, and the industry is facing a whole bunch of more challenges. Basically, we all know how budgets have exploded, right? Game budgets increased exponentially to the point where it was no longer relatively cheap to make a AAA game. It costs like 3 to 4 times more to make a AAA game now than it did 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. From PS4 to PS5, like that is an exponential growth in budget required. That's happening at the same time that the live service boom has kind of shrunk. Right, the whole live service explosion has coalesced into like 6 what Matthew Ball calls black hole games.
Mhm.
Games that are as much a social network as they are a game. And that makes them very, very sticky for users because that's where all your friends are. That's where all your investment is. That's where your network of friends is in this game. And so Sony comes out with Concord, and it doesn't matter how good Concord is, it's competing with a social network that is Fortnite. And that makes it much harder to break into it. And so the previous era where live service was kind of a wild west where anyone could like make a game and hit it big, you can't do that anymore. It's
Right.
matured into like these 5 big guys who suck all the oxygen out of everything else. So that's no longer like a big source of revenue. That is now a source of failure, as we see with Skull and Bones, with Concord, with Suicide Squad, etc. This is happening at the same time that microtransactions and stuff have kind of wrung that rug dry. You're just getting money you're trying to get blood from a stone, right? You can't add microtransactions to a game. You can't add another battle pass. You can't add another DLC. Like these post sales revenues are still bringing in a lot of money, as we can see with like EA and Ultimate Team. But like with budgets exploding, you're still spending more, and these post-sales revenue are kind of the same, but they're not growing. And you can't add more post-sales revenue. It's like, oh, we've got this revenue stream, but it's staying the same. Like we can't use it more.
Right.
That is happening. Obviously, this past year, inflation made everything worse, but that's not really a cause. That's just icing on the cake,
Right.
making everything worse. That is what's also really happening is there's been a decrease in mobile investment.
Mhm.
And he talked about Monopoly Go, how Monopoly Go was this major hit in 2024, makes like $2 billion in revenue, but that's because they spent $500 million in advertising.
Yeah.
Like, mobile games in the past didn't have to spend that much in user acquisition. And so mobile gaming also has become a much harder thing to invest in, where you have to spend more money to get anything back. And that just makes the whole thing more riskier. So investment in mobile has dropped. At the same time, budgets have exploded. At the same time, post-sales revenues have kind of remained flat. At the same time, inflation makes everything worse. But that's all just in America. And this is where I think the key difference is. This is like me looking into the future and kind of seeing the future of America.
Mhm.
Non-Western markets have matured to the point where they can offer big budget experiences that rival Western markets, specifically talking about China, Korea, Singapore, or like
Mhm.
some of the biggest spends for games.
Right.
I looked up Black Myth Wukong. Do you know how much it sold in America?
No.
Just over 1 million copies.
Okay.
If Black Myth Wukong, we talking about Dragon Age, sold 1.5 million and was considered kind of a failure.
A failure.
Black Myth Wukong sold 1 million copies. If it were just taking America into account, it would be a bomb. But it
Mhm.
sold blockbuster numbers in China. And what that means is
Yeah.
you can make a Chinese developer can make a Chinese game for a Chinese audience, and selling only to China, you can rival the worldwide sales numbers of other games made in
Yeah.
America.
Other AAA games. AAA
Yeah.
games. Not little ones, AAAs.
Yes, like it was a hit. Even if you remove US from Wukong's sales numbers, it is still one of the best-selling games of the year worldwide, just in China.
Right.
That means that market, these non-Western markets, have matured to the point where they can make games that sell locally, and that kind of takes that market away from American developers, right? Now there's this increased competition for games made locally, and a lot of the money from those emerging markets are going to go into those markets. Korean developers making Korean games for Korean gamers, Chinese developers making Chinese games for Chinese gamers. But those games are also being ported to America. Black
Right.
Myth Wukong, it sold 1 million copies, but that's not nothing. But then you have things like Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is huge,
Massive.
and that's Chinese development.
Mhm.
One of the things he mentions, let me see if I can get the exact number. Relevance of China was on 65, page 65. Boo, boo, boo. Trans exports are showing. Yeah, 42% of worldwide consumer spending growth since 2011 went to
Mhm.
Chinese developers. That China is exploding. China is experiencing the explosive industry growth that America did a decade ago.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not just China,
And
it's other developers.
it's also not just games.
No,
This is
it's yeah.
anecdotal to this, but remember TikTok for a horrible, horrible few hours was shut down, right?
hmm
Now this is anecdotal because I am just from the knowledge of, the girl child. She said all of her friends were setting up accounts on, what was it, like Red Letter or some
Red Note. Yeah, AC Wraith
Red
mentions
Note.
that.
Right.
Red Note.
So rather than go to Facebook, Twitter, Discord, anything made in the United States, YouTube, they decided to go to a different Chinese company that most of the stuff isn't even in English.
It's so hilarious that the US government is like, we're going to ban TikTok because of our fears of how it connects to China. And TikTok's user base goes, okay, we're going to go to an even more Chinese.
Even more risky, even more Chinese, even more controlled by the government app.
Yeah.
Rather than anything in the United States, they would rather go to another Chinese app that isn't even in English than
And
go to anything that we're putting out.
I'm going to kind of go beyond Matthew Ball.
Mastodon, anything.
I'm going to talk about beyond Matthew Ball. I subscribe to the Garbage Day newsletter, which is a tech newsletter that's really fucking good, and I highly recommend it to everyone. One of the things that he has talked about over and over again is how, like, for the past 5 years, even farther than that, American tech companies have largely failed to innovate on anything.
Right.
They haven't made a new killer app. They haven't made a new gadget worth buying. They've just jumped from one pump and dump scam to another, from NFTs to the metaverse to streaming to AI.
Yep.
And follows the era of enshittification, which I forget who came up with that term.
And shitification. I like it.
Enshittification. And basically what that means is making the user experience worse in ways that force you to engage more in order to present the illusion of growth and more use, but it's all fake. It's Google making search worse so that you spend more
More
time
time.
searching Google.
Mhm.
And they can show, hey, look, our user engagement has increased, but that's because the experience is worse for the user. It's Microsoft bundling AI products with Copilot and then raising the price. It's Facebook
It's
and Twitter
what's
removing
the what's the
information from links so that you have to click through to see it,
Yeah.
making the user experience worse in order to like falsify growth. But it's not even falsifying because they're not saying like we've
It's
got
to
more users.
artificially juice the growth.
Yeah, they say, look,
Juice the numbers.
we've got more engagement. We don't necessarily have more users, but we have more engagement. Um, and like that has been kind of the defining trend of the tech industry for the past 5 years. And so
Mhm.
again, this isn't unique to the gaming industry.
Right.
Um, but what
FYI, something you should keep in mind that because I don't have a headset,
okay,
the rest of the house has just arrived from seeing a movie. So we
okay.
should probably wrap up just simply because there's no way that I can ensure that this is, you know, not going to be infiltrated with house and family noise.
Okay. I'm getting to the end because
Okay.
my end point is to go return to Matthew Ball. One of the things he ends with is a series of ideas of like how can we return to growth. But the thing
Right.
is, looking at it with what I know of the industry and with my personal cynicism about the future of the country, uh,
Right.
none of those look like they will actually reverse the trend.
No.
What it actually looks like to me is that an industry predicated on growth has reached its maximum potential. It's
Final
wrung the
form.
blood from every stone. And all you can do, you can't make that number go up again. All you can do is maybe give you a little bump as it goes back down. Maybe give
Right.
you a little bump. Some of the things that he talks about in the future are, again, I've got to find, thankfully he has a table of contents so I can jump to the right slide. 124. Okay, specifically, he talks about non-core markets, about how maybe we can appeal to China and Korea and Singapore, except that he also says, like he stated before, a lot of the growth in those countries is confined to those growth. Chinese gamers are playing Chinese games. He talks about how
Well, Chinese gamers are playing Chinese games necessarily because of the controls that the government has on external
oh
software
yeah,
coming into the
like
country.
look, is it fair? That's not
No,
my point. My
that's
point that
capitalism
that
by
doesn't matter.
definition is not supposed to be fair. That's what
No.
late stage capitalism is.
Yes. And so, yeah, a lot of that has to do with China's control over its entertainment market, where they're not even going to let in a lot of those games.
Right, right.
Um, but in addition, he talked about like user generated content. Roblox is huge. So maybe we
Mhm.
can have a new Roblox. Maybe there will be um Media Molecule for Sony kind of specializes in those type of games, and they haven't put out a game for a long time.
They did Sackboy, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Yeah,
Little Big Planet.
and which was the premise of that was user generated content.
Yeah.
It just they didn't do a very
So
good job of it.
maybe you could do something with that. Like maybe there's a future there. He talks about social game services like Discord. Discord is
Mhm.
huge. It's now integrated into consoles. There's something there that you can monetize, something there that you can use to go to back to growth. He
We
says a
have
Switch 2.
to rethink the rules of what we've done. We've been doing the same thing
Yes.
over and over for years and years, and we can no longer sustain ourselves in this market doing what we have always
Yeah.
done.
The
We
current
have
market has
to,
been
dare I
wrung
use a
dry.
phrase, we have to think different.
We have to buy Apple products.
We have to buy Apple products, exactly. Have to have Apple move into it. The thing is that Apple doesn't even make very good stuff now either.
Oh,
So,
no. If Steve Jobs saw Tim Cook now, he'd kill him.
oh yeah, no. If Steve Jobs were alive now, he would wring Tim Cook's neck.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You would rip off his head and shit down his throat.
And you know what? Steve Jobs would absolutely do that.
I know. And I would applaud every minute of it as a burned Apple user multiple times over.
Other things he talked about, the Switch 2. Remember, like we just talked about, the Switch 2 came out in 2017. If we would compare that to
No, not the
iPhone-
Switch 2, the Switch.
Oh, yeah,
came
the
out
Switch
in 2017.
came out in 2017. That's like 6 generations of iPhones.
Yeah.
And so he said that maybe the Switch 2 could spur a boom in user interest in high fidelity games, right? Well, now you have a console much capable of playing much more high fidelity of games, which could spur interest in PS6 or the next Xbox.
Right. Right.
Handhelds, like we talked about before, like the future of video game consoles is handhelds, things like the Steam Deck. Xboxes do handheld, things like that.
My idea has always been, and they sort of tried to do that a little bit. Netflix many years ago and abandoned it because they were too concerned, I think, with the fact that people were not jumping on board quickly enough. Is the one shut up, Siri. The one thing that the United States and essentially Western countries have over all others is media, movies, and television. Using those platforms to drive games, not the other way around. Don't make a movie based on a video game. Find a way to integrate the experience of video games with the experience of movies or television so that they become a different form of media. Because that is something that China could not do. Because Chinese television and Chinese movies will never be popular over here. Korea,
that's not true.
Maybe.
Not
like America. Not comparatively. I'm not saying they will never ever. I mean, of course, Squid Game, perfect example. Squid Game was amazing.
Yeah,
but it's one.
I'm not even talking about Squid Game. I'm talking about what we talked about with games, about like China is making games for Chinese audiences and posting blockbuster numbers. Same exact thing happening in Hollywood. Like this whole discussion we've had, same thing applies to movies. And
does it?
It does.
But China's making movies for China, but China's movies don't export to the United States.
Not yet. But let's wait a decade and see what happens.
Nope.
We'll see. We'll see.
And you know why? Language.
Could be.
You will never have actors in China that can speak perfect English. Enough of them to make an industry out of.
Well, that's
and you will
why.
never have American actors that can speak Chinese well enough to satisfy Chinese audiences.
That's why you have someone dub over the original language.
Yeah, they do. It's called ADR.
And you use AI to match the lip flaps so that the average audience member, looks at it and doesn't see it. They don't see the old Godzilla style. Hi. That's a thing of the past because you've used AI to change the mouth and you've done proper ADR.
True.
And that makes it a lot easier to export things.
But I think that we have, at least currently, and it has been for a really long time, we have our movies and our television look a certain way that China's don't. Korea's is close, but our look and feel is the industry standard of excellence and always has been.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
I think that integrating what we have, where our strength is, into some kind of new media experience where games are part of it. That's what I mean about how we have to start thinking differently. We cannot just make games and make money.
And that
That
is
doesn't
actually
work anymore.
one thing he talked about is new game genres.
Mhm.
How 10 years ago, battle royale games were not technologically feasible, but
Right.
that genre is now like driving all of this growth. And
Right.
so, in the future, what technology will drive the invention of a new game genre that will then become like the new industry standard?
Right.
And then just to quickly go through other things, he says like AI making things cheaper to develop. Advertising, I thought was interesting. Games have long kind of resisted being a source of advertisement, but EA has mentioned that we're looking into doing more of that. Putting ads in games could be a way to increase revenue. And then he said the GTA 6 pricing. If GTA 6 comes out and it's $100, that gives other developers
Commission.
justification to raise their prices, and
Right.
that can help
And it
offset the
will.
record
I can
inflation.
guarantee you it will. I could almost guarantee you it's going to come out at $100
I
because
don't think it will. I don't think
people will pay it. Number one, people will pay it. Two, Rockstar absolutely would love to get $100 per. And number three is Rockstar would really love to set a new bar for the cost of games. Everybody that has any kind of say in how it's going to be pricing wants it. There's no reason
yeah.
for them not to.
Yes.
There's no downside for them.
But I think looking at all of these possible new sources of revenue, none of them to me speak to, like I said before, none of them seem like they're possible to replicate that original growth that mobile drove.
Right.
And so all of these things are just delaying the inevitable decline of this industry.
Mhm.
And I see that as it's an industry predicated on growth that has maxed out all revenues of growth. And it's either an
To the
industry
point
that,
of where now they have to actually fuck around with the numbers to make it look like they're continuing to grow.
yeah, and it's either an industry that has to figure out a way to accept not growing, but that requires rethinking the entire economy and stock market,
Right.
or an industry that just collapses on itself. And that's why I said it's a bit of a downer, because my vision of the future is basically
The
decline.
entire video game industry and everywhere except China collapsing.
Not necessarily collapsing, but like I do think we are in an era of American decline. Like socially, politically, and culturally, we are retreating from the world. You can
Mhm.
see this in like Trump's whole America First idea, becoming
Right.
more isolationist. Post World War II, we were like leaders of the free world. We want to get out there and spread our influence. And what we're seeing now is this country is retreating from that influence, and other countries are emerging to fill that cultural and influential void. And
Right.
that's an issue that's not limited to games. It's not limited to finance. It's not limited to politics. It is a massive global cultural change
Mhm.
that can be like seen. The video game industry is just a little microcosm of this giant global sea change. And I think that's kind of fascinating. It's a little depressing, but it's like, damn, that's interesting to see.
Being on the losing end of
Yeah.
both the microcosm and the macrocosm.
Yeah, and it's just like being able to see my hobby is a reflection of the world.
Right. Of my country, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Anyway,
I don't know what the future holds. I'm looking forward to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and you know what? That's enough for me for now.
that is, as long as I have that come out and it's good, I'm happy for the next decade.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could
It's
just
like
keep playing that one.
this one, as long as there's like one big game I love a year, that's fine.
Mhm.
He
Exactly.
said soon we'll be cursing in Chinese like Firefly.
Yeah, actually, the Firefly is becoming more and more the case, believe me.
Turns out Firefly predicted the future way better than anyone thought.
Way better than anybody else. All right, so on that depressing note,
Yes.
shall we close
Although
this?
I do gotta say, like Matthew Ball, who put this whole thing together, I highly recommend anyone read it. It's got way more detail about the things I talked into. I just like skimmed over everything. I know AC Wraith put a link to like the 5 biggest takeaways from the plan. But like, it's a really fascinating, well-researched presentation. It's free, which is insane because usually a consulting company like this doesn't put all this work into something and put it out for free.
Right.
But like every page of the presentation has like a well done graph, and the whole thing is just really, really interesting and well put together. And so, like, kudos to him for doing it. Kudos to him for making it free, and highly recommend anyone read it.
All right. So, anything else before we close out the show, other than to once again remind you that in 2 weeks from now, we will not be here because Nick will be out of town. So, we're going to be taking the week off. And in the meantime, I'm hoping that maybe I might just be streaming Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 by that point, because I'm gonna be deep in it. I'm gonna be so deep in it. So anything else before we close this out?
Technically, we'll be gone for 2 weeks. Last week I was sick. 2 weeks from now, we'll be in Denver. That means like 2 shows. I should get to drink 2 at once instead of dragging this out further.
Okay, next week you can drink 2 at once.
Well, if it's
you can do a compare and contrast between 2. You can open them up together and A/B that shit.
Okay, as long as it's good. This was not the best soda, but I needed something to drink. I kind of like the peanut butter better. This is like
mustard soda is just not doing it for you, huh? That bottle does look disgusting. Like just the label of it just churns my stomach seeing that label. Gross. Mustard flavored soda. 100% natural. Anyway, all right.
Oh, AC Ray says next week is my birthday. Happy birthday!
Hey, happy birthday, AC Wraith. You are the best addition to the GameHounds in
happy future birthday.
Ever. Happy future birthday. I'm not even going to ask you how old you are because it doesn't matter. We love you no matter what. So actually, I will end the show with something I promised. I promised you an update on the nightmare fuel of the house.
Oh, yes.
Shut up. Jesus.
The gremlins are getting into Siri too.
They're getting
the browser. They're at the watch. The gremlins are fucking everywhere. They're in the house. Watch the lights. Watch the chandeliers.
So, you knew that, like, I walked into the house right after they started, and my entire house is covered in like this layer of plaster dust. Everything in my house is layered in plaster dust, which means that I would have to do a massive cleanup just to be able to live in there. Well, then work stopped because all the workers went back home to south of the border.
No. Oh,
welcome to your future, America. So they're back, fortunately.
Okay, good.
That's the good news. But they all went home and, of course, left the floor open, which left the floor open to the rats, which is how the rats came in. So the owner of the company went in and closed up the hole. So now there's rats running rampant in my house. I go and get myself an industrial-sized box of rat traps. And I'm like, okay, we can handle this nightmare too. It's just plaster dust and rats everywhere, covered in rat poop and rat urine.
Oh, God,
everywhere.
The poop.
The whole kitchen.
Oh, I didn't even think about the poop.
Layered in it. So I'm like, this is fine. This is like, I'm like that dog with the on fire. Like, this is fine. Like, I will handle this. I will handle this. First thing we need to do, we need to get rid of the rats. So I buy an industrial box of rat traps. I go into the house and I'm like, okay, we need bait. God, I don't know. I'm out of peanut butter. What can I get for bait? There must be something in the fridge. There's got to be something in the fridge that I can use, like cheese or something like that. I open up the fridge and it's like a rainforest of mold.
Oh,
like literally hanging off of all of the shelves. and the smell. So I'm like, wait, what? How? What? And I stick my hand in and it's warm. And I
Oh
open the
no.
freezer and it's, like I go to Costco. I buy chicken at Costco and I keep a lot of chicken at Costco. And right before I left the house, I'd gone to Costco and bought a bunch of chicken. And it's all defrosted and all the packages are like puffed up.
Oh, Jesus. But wait, did your place lose power?
I'm guessing at my 21-year-old refrigerator in the process of turning off and on power a few times because the electrician was in there,
Oh.
that it broke my refrigerator.
Oh God.
And incidentally, when I was there the last time, I was thinking about that refrigerator because my dad bought that refrigerator for me. It was like one of the nicer presents he ever got me. And I was thinking to myself, God damn, that refrigerator, such a great workhorse. Man, that refrigerator is just going to go forever.
So, okay, I got to ask then, what about all the turkeys?
The turkeys are still in the other freezers there. I have to get rid of those.
Hallelujah! The turkey survived.
No. I mean, I have to buy a new refrigerator.
Yeah. Yeah, AC Wraith asked,
So
is any of this covered by insurance?
I just closed it back up. I took out as much stuff so it didn't explode. And I just closed it back up, opened a window, and it was like, this is a problem for future eating, not today eating.
Yeah, just
Because there's nothing I can
Nope.
do about this other than taking stuff out, sticking it in the garbage can, letting everybody in the neighborhood enjoy that smell for a while until the garbage day comes. And then just tape the whole thing up and take it to the dump and just dump it. None of this is covered by insurance.
Oh.
Because this was just a normal bathroom renovation that has just gone completely off the rails. So yeah, every time I go in, it's like some new level of hell. Like, what could possibly go worse today? What's the worst possible thing that could happen to make this house dirtier and or smellier or harder to clean? AC Ray says, I wonder if the dust will provide a protective layer against the rat excrement. The answer is no, it does not. So we're still in the process of trapping my new roommates and getting rid of them. And when we get rid of them, then we will have to completely deep clean the entire kitchen, because after that, then I can get a refrigerator. So at this point, I could, if the bathroom was fixed, I still couldn't move in because I have no refrigerator.
This reminds me of the Simpsons episode. I'm trying to track it down, where the city was taken over by snakes, and they're like, "Well, how do you solve the snakes? Oh, we're gonna bring in mongooses. Well, what happens when the mongoose
Fuck you
get
for
over?
linking Money Pit, AC Ray. Fuck
You
you
know,
for linking Money Pit.
It's like we go to mongoose. What happens when they overrun? Well, but that's when we bring in the hawks. Well, what happens when the hawks overrun things? Well, that's when we bring in the gorillas. Well, what happens when the gorillas take over? Well, that's the great. They freeze to death in the winter.
Yeah.
This is just one disaster after another.
All I just wanted to do was change the bathroom. That's all I wanted to do was fix the holes in the wall. And I just wanted some stairs. That's all I wanted. But this is fine. I'll just keep fixing things one at a time. It's just adding things to the list, making me reorder the list of things I need to do to get back in my house.
Okay.
Right before I leave my house.
Yeah. You should watch Love, Death, and Robots.
Uh-huh.
One episode.
Right.
Called Ice Age.
That's not from the first season, is it?
I think it might be.
If it was from the first season, I saw it, but I'll go back and rewatch it.
Okay. It's about the people who open their fridge and find a surprise inside.
I don't remember. I'll have to look to see if I remember it.
When you talk about the mold, I thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that refrigerator is something special.
Oh God. I can't even. Next
I'm
time
glad
you're there.
I'm glad I found it when I did, because if all
Yeah.
of those things had exploded inside, can you imagine?
Ooh.
I couldn't have even cleaned it.
Next time you're there, take a picture.
No.
No? But I wanna see the horror.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
It's like The Last of Us in there.
It is. It is like The Last of Us. It is post Armageddon. Nobody needs to see this. Anyway, so on that note, shall we close this out?
Good luck. Good luck.
Thanks. I'm gonna
Yeah.
need it. We'll keep you posted for next week, and then we'll see what happens. So anyway,
Yeah.
on that note, let's close this out. You've been listening to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 771. Man, I hope that this is showing up right.
I can hear you a lot better.
Oh, good. 771. We recorded this on Sunday, January 26, 2025. I'm Edie Sellers. With me has been Nick DiNicola. Ways to get a hold of us: gamehounds.net is our website. Gamehounds@gmail.com is our email. We record the show live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. On Facebook, we are The Gamehounds. On YouTube, we are Gamehounds Vids, all one word, Gamehounds VIDS as in videos. And on Twitch, we are The Gamehounds. Please feel free to join us live if you can. If you listen to this on iTunes, we would love to have you in the chat room asking questions and making us laugh, and us making you laugh, hopefully, too. If you are listening on iTunes, please do me a favor, drop a comment within iTunes to say whether we're good or not. Two reasons why. One, if we're not good, you can help us make the show better. If we are good, you can actually help other people find our podcast, because we have a lot of GameHounds listeners that thought we went away, that don't know that we're back. So the sooner that they could find out, the better it is for everyone. Them, you, me, us. It's all good. So please do that. On iTunes, we are GameHounds Podcast on iTunes. Please leave us some notes there. Also, don't forget, we are 100% Patreon funded. If you would like to drop us a buck a month, that's all we ask. Please have us, please go to patreon.com/gamehounds and just shoot us a little cash to help pay for some of the subscriptions that are necessary to keep this going. Also, there is our Discord. If you would like to join up with us and talk to us throughout the week, join our Discord. Our Discord links are in the descriptions of every place where we are posted. So go in the descriptions and find it there and join us. In the meantime, we will talk to you next week. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much for being here again, Nick.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course.
And we'll see you next week,
Hopefully
hopefully with a working headset.
Hopefully with less of a cough, too.
And less of a cough. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. I'm out. See you later. Thanks again, AC Raid,
Later.
for being the best of us. Also, happy birthday, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.